Last October, my wife Emma came downstairs one morning and told me her younger sister Rachel was getting married in Maui the following April. Her whole family was going, parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone. She mentioned it would be expensive, and I immediately did the mental math that comes automatically after over a decade of marriage. Flights, accommodations, wedding gifts, new clothes because nothing I owned seemed right for a beach wedding. Probably $5,000, maybe more. I didn't hesitate. I had a bonus coming in March, and we had savings set aside, and Emma seemed relieved when I said we could make it work. Then she suggested something that seemed completely reasonable at the time. Since it was such a big expense, maybe she should handle all the bookings. She was better at finding deals, and Rachel had given her some family discount code for the resort. I agreed without a second thought because that's what trust looks like in a marriage. You let your partner handle things because you're a team. That was my first mistake. In November, Emma asked me to transfer $4,000 to her account for deposits. She explained the resort needed everything up front because it was peak season and flights were cheaper if we booked early. I transferred it immediately. I remember hovering over the confirm button for just a moment, feeling something I couldn't quite name, but I pushed it away. Emma was standing in our kitchen, looking tired and overwhelmed by all the planning, and I loved her. So I pressed confirm, and she thanked me with real gratitude in her voice. That's what made everything worse later. The fact that she genuinely seemed appreciative that I was funding my own exclusion. The months that followed had this strange quality to them. Emma spent hours on her laptop looking at travel sites and making notes. Sometimes I'd come home and she'd be on the phone with her mother, and they'd go quiet when I walked in. Not suspiciously quiet, just that natural pause in conversation. When I asked, Emma would say it was just wedding stuff, and I'd nod because her mother, Margaret, was intense about family events. I figured Rachel's wedding was being planned with military precision. At Christmas, we went to Emma's parents' house for the usual celebration. Rachel cornered me by the dessert table and said she was excited we were coming to Hawaii. Then she added something that stuck with me. She mentioned she was glad Emma was bringing me because Margaret suggested maybe it would be better if it was just blood family. But Emma had shut that down hard. I smiled and made some joke about not missing an open bar in paradise, but something twisted in my stomach and stayed there. That night driving home, I almost asked Emma about it, but she was humming along to the radio and looked so peaceful that I let it go. Another mistake. In February, I asked Emma over dinner if she'd finalized all the bookings. She said everything was set and she'd forward me the confirmation emails when we got home. She never did, but I was buried in a massive project at work, pulling 60-hour weeks, coming home exhausted. The wedding was this distant thing on the horizon, while real life was deadlines and meetings. I trusted Emma to handle it. March arrived, and my bonus came through larger than expected. I transferred another $2,000 to Emma's account, without her even asking. She seemed stressed and distant, spending more time at Rachel's apartment, helping with last-minute wedding prep. I thought I was being a good husband by not complaining about the late dinners and distracted conversations. 3 weeks before we were supposed to leave, I was lying in bed scrolling through my phone when I decided to look up the resort out of curiosity. The Maui Paradise Resort looked incredible, with ocean view rooms and an infinity pool. I could picture Emma and me there with drinks watching the sunset. Maybe this trip would be good for us. Reset something that had felt slightly off in our marriage, though I couldn't name what exactly. I pulled up our shared calendar to check the exact dates. April 15th through 22nd, a full week in paradise. Then, because I'm thorough to the point of being obsessive sometimes, I opened my email and searched for confirmations from the resort or airline. I didn't find anything, but that wasn't unusual because Emma was terrible about forwarding things. I thought about texting her, but it was almost 11 at night and she'd be home soon from Rachel's place anyway. The Tuesday before our Thursday departure, I woke up thinking about packing. I'm the type who makes lists and lays everything out days in advance. Emma used to tease me about my dad energy, even though we don't have kids. That morning, I asked her to forward the confirmation emails because I wanted everything on my phone. She was checking her makeup in the mirror and didn't turn around when she said she had it all on her phone. Don't worry about it. Something about her tone made me stop. I asked again, said it would take 2 seconds. She turned and had this expression I'd never seen before, like she was doing complicated math in her head, trying to solve an equation made of lies. She said, okay, she'd send them from work. Then she kissed me goodbye and left. I stood in our bedroom with an empty suitcase at my feet and that fist in my stomach clenched so hard I thought I might be sick. I didn't go to work. I called in saying I wasn't feeling well, which wasn't a lie. Then I sat down at my laptop and started digging into something I should have examined months earlier. I checked all our bank accounts first. Joint checking, joint savings, my personal checking, Emma's personal account that I still had viewing access to from when we'd set it up years ago. $6,000 had moved from our joint account to Emma's personal account over 6 months in regular transfers. That tracked with what I'd given her for the wedding. But when I looked at Emma's spending, I expected to see payments to airlines and resorts and wedding vendors. Instead, I found shopping charges, Nordstrom, Sephora, multiple spa days, hair salon appointments, $800 at some boutique called Luxe, one charge for $1,200 at a place called Azure Restaurant on March 10th. I Googled it. Fine dining tasting menu, $600 per person, romantic atmosphere, perfect for anniversaries. March 10th was a Friday. I'd worked late. Emma had texted saying she was having dinner with Rachel and bridesmaids for wedding planning. Tasting menu for 2. My hands started shaking. I kept searching through credit card statements and phone bills, going back months, looking for anything that would explain what was happening. Because something was definitely happening while I'd been working overtime, and being a good husband, and transferring money for a trip we apparently weren't taking together. I'd never looked at Emma's text messages before. Never had a reason to. But I looked that day. Found a thread with her mother from the previous week. Margaret asking if she was sure about this, saying it seemed cruel. Emma responding that it wasn't cruel, it was easier this way, less awkward. Margaret saying he's going to find out eventually. Emma saying not until we're gone and by then it won't matter. I read those messages over and over, trying to make them mean something else, trying to bend reality into a shape where my wife wasn't deliberately planning something that required my ignorance to work. Then I found the flight confirmation in an email folder buried under spam. Hawaiian Airlines, dated December 15th. 6 tickets. Margaret Johnson, Richard Johnson, Claire Chen, David Chen, Emma Anderson, Rachel Johnson. 6 tickets, not 7. I wasn't on that flight. I had never been on that flight. She'd booked it in December, 3 months after telling me about the wedding, 2 months after I'd transferred the first $4,000. I sat there for a long time while the laptop screen went dark. Outside, I could hear normal sounds. A neighbor mowing their lawn, someone driving by with bass too loud. Normal Tuesday sounds in a world that had just fractured completely. When I could move again, I called the resort directly. Gave them the confirmation number I'd found in Emma's email. "Yes, Mr. Anderson," the woman said. "I have your reservation." One ocean view room, king bed, April 15th through 22nd. Checked in under Emma Anderson's name. I asked how many guests were on the reservation. She said 2 guests. I asked if I could cancel it since I was the one who'd paid for it. She put me on hold, came back sounding apologetic. She explained the room was part of a group block for the Johnson-Martinez wedding with a family discount, and if I canceled, the discount would be removed from 5 other rooms, 2 doubles and 3 singles, all for the same dates. The entire family had accommodations, everyone except me. I didn't cancel. Instead, I had the reservation transferred to my name only, removing Emma as a guest. The woman asked about the other guest, and I said they'd figure it out. Then I started looking for the real reason behind everything. I found it in Emma's email correspondence with someone named Tom from her office. The emails went back 18 months, started professional, moved to friendly, turned flirty, became explicit. I didn't read all of them because I didn't need to. I understood the shape of it. An affair that had been going on while I worked 60-hour weeks and played the faithful husband. When Emma came home that evening, I was making dinner, pasta carbonara, her favorite. I'd opened wine and set the table with our nice plates and lit candles. She stood in the kitchen doorway, looking confused and maybe scared. I smiled and said I felt like doing something nice since we'd both been so busy. We ate and talked about nothing, her day at work, the show we'd been watching. She was tense, kept glancing at her phone. After dinner, I poured more wine and told her I'd been thinking about Hawaii. She froze for just a second, just long enough. I continued casually, saying the work project was wrapping up and I was exhausted, really burned out. Maybe I should take extra time off, not just the week for the wedding, but more. Maybe I needed time to figure some things out. Life things, marriage things. She asked what things in barely a whisper. I said I'd made a decision. She was going to go to Hawaii and have an amazing time at her sister's wedding. And while she was gone, I was going to do some thinking. She started to speak, but I interrupted. I told her she'd have a great trip, and when she came back, we'd really talk about everything. I suggested she stay in the guest room that night to give us both space. She left the room crying, and I washed the dishes alone, sitting in our kitchen while my wife cried one floor above me, and I started planning my exit. I didn't sleep that night. I made lists in our home office, my home office as I was starting to think of it. Things I needed to do before Emma left, things I needed to do while she was gone, things I needed to do after. I separated bank accounts mentally, changed passwords on everything in my head, drafted an email to my boss about taking emergency leave. At 3 in the morning, I heard Emma crying in the bathroom. Part of me wanted to comfort her, but I stayed in my chair. At 5, she left the house, her car starting and pulling away. Going to work early or going somewhere else, I didn't care anymore. I started packing. My brother David lives in Seattle. We're not particularly close, but we're not estranged either. We have the kind of relationship where you can call asking for a favor and get a yes. I told him I needed somewhere to stay for a while, maybe a long while. He asked what happened, and I said, Emma and I were done. It was complicated, I'd explain when I got there. He said, come up. They had a spare room. His wife Kate was a nurse with long shifts. David worked from home doing something in tech. They'd been married 8 years and still kissed goodbye every morning. I drove to the bank first, opened a new account in only my name, transferred exactly half of our joint savings. My half. I left her half untouched, because I'm not a thief. Then I went to see a divorce attorney who'd been recommended by a colleague. Michael Chen listened to everything without interrupting. At the end, he said, this was bad, but not as bad as it could be. No kids, everything documented, I discovered it before she left instead of being blindsided later. Most importantly, I'd kept my head instead of confronting and making it ugly. He told me to disappear while Emma was in Hawaii. Not legally, just make myself unavailable. Don't answer calls or texts. Let her come back to an empty house and an absent husband. See what she does when she thinks nobody's watching. People reveal themselves, he said. I went home and packed thoroughly. Clothes, laptop, important documents, photo albums from before we went digital. I left my wedding ring on the kitchen counter with a short note. Emma, I know, take your trip. We'll talk when you get back. I didn't specify what I knew. Let her wonder. I loaded my car and looked at our house one last time. The house we'd bought 5 years ago. Painted together, argued about throw pillows in. It looked like home, but it wasn't anymore. I drove north to Seattle. Emma left for Hawaii on Thursday. At 6 that morning, my phone started buzzing with calls and texts I didn't answer. I went for a run instead through Seattle's hills and rain. When I got back, I had 17 missed calls and a voicemail of Emma saying she didn't know what to say. She knew I was angry. Could we please talk before she left? She needed to explain. It wasn't what I thought. I deleted it and blocked her number. Blocked her mother's number. Blocked Rachel's number. Michael Chen had said disappear, so I disappeared completely. The days in Seattle developed a strange rhythm. I'd wake early, make coffee in David and Kate's kitchen, look at their wedding photos on the walls. Evidence of a functional marriage. I watched them interact like I was studying some species I didn't understand. Here we see the married couple communicating openly, treating each other with actual respect. Kate caught me staring one morning. She sat down and told me I probably didn't do anything wrong. Some people are just broken in ways you can't fix. She said in nursing school they taught her you can't heal someone who doesn't want to be healed. Same with relationships. You can be perfect and still end up with someone choosing to hurt you. So what do? I asked. You save yourself, she said. Then you heal. Then you try again with someone who wants to be saved as much as you do. On Sunday, day 3 of Emma's Hawaii trip, I unblocked my phone to check. 43 missed calls, 68 texts, and voicemails I listened to in order like some audio documentary of a marriage ending. Day 1 was panic. Emma saying she was freaking out at the airport. What did I know? Please call. Day 2 was confusion. She was in Hawaii and I wasn't answering. Margaret was asking where I was. Day 3 shifted to anger. Fine, be angry, but disappearing isn't solving anything. We're married. We're supposed to talk. I can't just run away. The irony that almost made me laugh. But Sunday's voicemail was different, more calculated. Emma saying she knew I was listening to these. So here's what she'd tell me. Yes, she'd messed up. Yes, she should have told me about the plans changing, but I was acting like she'd committed some crime when really she was trying to make things easier. I'd been so busy with work, so stressed. She thought maybe I'd actually want a break. But clearly, I'd rather make it dramatic. So fine, when she got home, we'd talk like adults, and maybe I should grow up a little. I played that one 3 times, listening to how she shifted blame and made herself the sufferer and turned my pain into my immaturity. I called Michael Chen, and he told me to keep recording everything and stay disappeared. While Emma was in Hawaii, I kept investigating digitally. I had access to our shared cloud storage, her emails she'd never logged out of on our home computer, joint credit card statements I could access remotely. I know how this sounds, but she had already excavated our marriage and filled it with lies, so I dug through looking for truth. The credit card charges painted a picture. That $1,200 dinner had reviews online about its romantic atmosphere, perfect for anniversaries and proposals. Emma and who? I found the answer in her emails, a lengthy correspondence with Tom from her office going back 18 months. Professional at first, then friendly, then explicit. An affair that had started emotional and turned physical around last summer. But Tom wasn't going to Hawaii. I found that in a group email about the wedding that showed the attendee list. No Tom. So who was sharing Emma's room? I called the resort again and asked the same helpful manager, Patricia, if she could tell me who had checked in. She hesitated but told me 2 guests had checked in, Emma Anderson and Margaret Johnson, according to the booking notes. Emma had booked a romantic ocean view room for herself and her mother with money we'd saved for our life together. She'd planned a vacation specifically designed to exclude me while having an affair on the side. I started writing everything down because if it stayed in my head, it would consume me. A timeline of our marriage, red flags I'd missed, questions needing answers. The document grew to 20 pages, then 30, becoming like a deposition for a trial where I was both prosecutor and witness. David found me typing furiously at 2 in the morning and told me at some point I'd need to stop investigating and start healing. And those were different things. He was right, but I wasn't ready to heal. I was still bleeding. On Wednesday, day 6 of Emma's vacation, I got a text from an unknown number, Rachel saying she was borrowing someone's phone because Emma said I'd blocked her. Everyone was worried. Emma was a mess. Barely came to the ceremony. Could I please just call her? I responded telling Rachel to tell Emma I was fine, and we'd talk when she got home. Rachel asked what happened. I told her to ask her sister, then blocked that number too. In the waiting, something unexpected happened. I started feeling better. Not happy, not whole, but better. Like I'd been holding my breath for years and was finally learning to breathe again. I slept through the night for the first time in months. My constant low-level anxiety disappeared. Kate observed I seemed lighter one evening while we cooked dinner together. I said I felt hollow. She said, maybe hollow is lighter. Maybe I'd been carrying so much weight that hollow felt like relief. Emma came home on Sunday. I knew because I'd been tracking the flight, still had access to her email. I didn't go to the airport. I stayed in Seattle eating leftover pizza. At 8, my phone started ringing with different numbers. I didn't answer. The voicemails progressed from worried to angry. Where was I? Was I safe? She'd called the police, but they said I wasn't a missing person. Finally, she said fine. I wanted her to suffer and understand how it felt, not knowing where someone was. Point made. Now please come home. I didn't respond to any of them. I decided during that week of walking and thinking that I wasn't going to be reactive anymore. Emma had made her choices. Now she could live with the consequences. Michael Chen called saying Emma was trying to reach him, worried about me, asking if he knew my location. He'd told her I was his client and she should get her own lawyer. But he said eventually I needed to talk to her to move forward with divorce proceedings. I said I knew, just not yet. I came home on Tuesday, 3 days after Emma's return, 12 days after I'd left. The drive took 5 hours. Our house looked exactly the same, but felt completely different. Emma's car was in the driveway. I grabbed my bag, used my key, walked inside. The house smelled like her perfume and something cooking. She came out of the kitchen looking terrible, in that way that comes from days of crying. Her eyes were swollen, her face thinner like she hadn't been eating. We stood in our own foyer, 2 people who'd shared a bed for 14 years, and the distance felt impossible to cross. She asked if we could talk. I said that's why I was there. She led me to the living room. I sat in the chair, not the couch where we usually sat together, creating physical space to match the emotional distance. She didn't know where to start. I suggested the beginning when she decided to plan a family vacation without me. She flinched and said it wasn't like that. I asked what it was like then. She took a breath and explained it started with Margaret suggesting maybe it should be just blood family because of the expense. At first, Emma said no. Obviously, I was coming. I was her husband. But Margaret kept bringing it up, and Rachel was stressed about costs, and Emma thought maybe if I didn't come, if she went with her mother instead, they could save money. I'd been so busy with work, so exhausted, maybe I'd actually want a break. She was going to tell me, but months kept passing, and she kept chickening out, and then it was too late. Everything was booked. She thought maybe she could tell me at the last minute, and I'd understand. I pointed out she never told me at all. She was going to let me pack and show up at the airport, and what, surprise me? She was crying now, saying she didn't know, she'd panicked, she'd made a mistake. I asked about Tom. The name hit her like a physical blow. She recoiled and said that was over. It ended months ago. I asked when, before or after she took him to Azure, for a $1,200 dinner using our money. She said it ended in March. That dinner was her ending it, choosing me. I laughed because it was either that or scream. She chose me by planning a vacation without me, by spending our savings on everything except what she said, by lying for months. She was sobbing that ugly kind of crying where you can't catch your breath. She said she loved me, we could fix this, go to counseling, please don't give up on us. I told her the worst part wasn't even the affair, it was Hawaii. She took what should have been a happy family occasion and turned it into an elaborate plot to exclude me. She let me pay for it, $6,000, and let me believe I was going right up until she left. She let me think I was part of her family when she was trying to carve me out of it. She said that wasn't true. I asked what was true then, because everything she'd told me for 6 months had been a lie, so why should I believe anything now? She didn't have an answer. She just cried, and I watched, and the space between us grew wider. We talked for hours. She explained and justified and apologized and promised. She told me about Tom pursuing her, how lonely she'd felt, how I'd been working so much. She told me about Margaret's pressure, about feeling caught between her family and me. She said she'd been planning to tell me. Really, she just needed the right moment. When she finally exhausted herself of words and excuses, I spoke, I want a divorce. She shook her head, begged me not to throw away 14 years because of a few mistakes. I stood up and said I was done. I wasn't being the understanding husband who forgives while she does whatever she wants. I wasn't being the guy who pays for everything while she builds a life that doesn't include him. Those vows go both ways, and she broke them first. I went upstairs to pack more things. She followed, asking where I was going. I said back to Seattle. David said I could stay as long as needed. She said she'd thought something happened to me, thought I was hurt or dead. I said she thought wrong, I was fine, better than I'd been in months, actually. That stopped her. She said I was different. I said, yeah, I am. She said she didn't like it. I said she didn't have to. As I carried my bag downstairs, she asked what she should tell people. I told her to tell the truth. She said she couldn't. They'd hate her. I said then lie. She was good at that. It was cruel, but I was tired of protecting her feelings while mine bled out. At the door, I stopped and told her that, for what it was worth, I really had loved her. Completely. I'd have done anything for her. But it wasn't enough. Or maybe it was too much. Either way, I was done trying to make sense of it. My lawyer would reach out about the divorce. No calls, no texts, no surprise visits to Seattle. From now on, everything went through attorneys. She said that was cold. I said maybe, but paying for a family trip I wasn't invited to was colder. So no, she didn't get warmth from me that night. I got in my car and drove off without looking back. The divorce dragged on for 9 months. Lawyers, mediation, endless lists of what belonged to who. 9 months of dividing furniture, finances, and even friends. Emma fought at first. She wanted counseling, sent long emotional emails I never read, just forwarded to Michael, my lawyer. By month 4, she gave up and signed. We split everything down the middle. Sold the house, split the money, ended the life we'd built. I stayed in Seattle. First in David and Kate's guest room, then in my own small apartment in the Pearl District. I landed a job managing projects, made new friends, and started therapy. Patricia Moore told me recovery isn't a straight line. Some days would feel fine, others wouldn't, and that was normal. She asked what kind of healing I wanted. Did I want to stay angry and let this shape me, or learn from it, and move forward. Both were choices, she said, but only one led to peace. 10 months after the divorce, I got a message on LinkedIn from Rachel. She said she was sorry for everything. She admitted she should have told me the truth about the Hawaii trip, should have pushed back when Margaret called it family only. She said what Emma did was wrong, that they'd fought over it, and she couldn't believe Emma had dragged her into lying. Then she mentioned something else. Emma and Tom were officially together now, had moved in a month ago. I read it 5 times. Emma and Tom. Of course. It didn't hit me like I thought it would. It didn't feel like being stabbed, more like hearing the final echo of a door closing. It just confirmed what I already knew. I wrote Rachel back, thanked her, and told her I was okay. Actually better than okay. Losing everything I thought I wanted had somehow made me free. The 1-year mark of Emma leaving for Hawaii fell on a Tuesday. I took the day off and drove to the Oregon coast. Rough, gray, and beautiful. I walked for hours thinking about how much had changed. A year ago, I was a married man planning a vacation, believing my life was steady, my wife loyal. Now I was divorced, in a new city with a new job starting over. Everything was different. And in all that loss, I found something I didn't expect. Myself. Not the easygoing husband who kept quiet, sent money, and trusted too easily. But someone new, sharper, more honest, more aware of what I deserved and what I wouldn't tolerate anymore. On that windy beach, I thought of something Dr. Moore had asked. What do I believe in now? I told her I believe in proof, in patterns, in actions. People show you who they are if you're paying attention. When someone proves they don't value you, believe them. She warned me not to let Emma's choices turn me bitter. Some people are still good, she said. Don't close yourself off. Was I closed off? Yeah, probably. Did I have walls? Absolutely. But maybe one day, I'd meet someone who made those walls feel like a cage instead of protection. Maybe. But not that day. That day, surviving was enough. The story should have ended there. It didn't. 2 days after my trip, David walked in holding his phone. Have you seen this? Good. Rachel had posted new vacation photos on Facebook, and under them, Margaret had commented publicly and saying how the wedding had been shadowed by family drama, how my husband Jason refused to come at the last minute, causing stress for everyone. Very disappointing behavior, she wrote. Some people just can't stand not being the center of attention. The replies poured in, all sympathy for Emma. Poor thing, they said. The divorce must be so hard on her. I read it 3 times, then something calm and cold settled over me. I looked at David and said, I think it's time people heard the truth. I spent the next week putting everything together, every file, screenshot, and bit of proof I had. Bank records showing where Emma really spent our money. Emails with Tom, all dated. Flight info proving I was never on the booking. A recording of my call with the resort confirming Emma checked in with her mom. I laid it all out. Clean, chronological, factual. No emotion, just sources. Then I wrote a short cover letter. Straight to the point. My name's Jason Anderson. Most know me as Emma's ex-husband. People have heard different stories about our split and why I wasn't at Rachel's wedding. I wanted to clear up the confusion. Attached was a timeline, backed by documents. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone, just correcting false stories. Everything could be checked. I wasn't looking for pity or drama, only truth that had been buried. Michael Chen looked over it legally. Dr. Moore reviewed it from a mental health angle. She asked why I wanted to send it. I said because Emma kept calling me the villain, her mom was lying in public, and after 14 years of silence, I was done pretending. She asked if it was revenge. I said no, it was truth. She asked if I was sure. I thought for 3 days. Did I want to hurt Emma? Yes. Did I want Margaret to face consequences? Definitely. Did I want people to know the truth? More than anything. But under that, I just wanted one thing. To not be erased by lies. To tell my story myself, not through Emma's version. So I sent it. Not to everyone, just the right people. Rachel deserved to know. Emma's friends who had defended her online. Mutual friends who'd stayed neutral. And Margaret. Since she started it with public lies. I sent everything and waited. Within an hour, my phone blew up. Not with anger, with shock. People said they had no idea. Emma told them I skipped out because of work. They couldn't believe it. Why hadn't I spoken before? I told them because I was ashamed. thought silence was the high road, didn't want to look bitter. But silence only feeds lies. Rachel's reply hit hardest. She said she was crying after reading it. She never knew the truth. Emma told them I'd agreed to everything and that the divorce was mutual. Rachel apologized, deleted Margaret's comment, and blocked her until she apologized publicly. The fallout was explosive. Margaret called me from another number, furious that I'd humiliated Emma. I cut her off. She didn't get to lie about me publicly and then call me cruel for showing the proof. Everything in that file was true, and she knew it. She called it vindictive. I said, letting your son-in-law pay for a trip, then pretending he refused to go is vindictive. If she lied again, I'd send the file to everyone she knew. Then Emma texted from a new number. You're ruining my life, she said. I told her I was fixing lies. She said everyone hated her now, even Rachel. What more did I want? I said, for you to stop lying. She said I'd exposed her private life. I said she made it public first. Every time she painted herself as the sufferer, she said she hated me, and I said, good, we're even. Then I blocked her and changed my number. Now I'm sitting in a Seattle coffee shop. It's been 2 years since Emma left for Hawaii, a year since the divorce, 6 months since I sent the truth out. People ask if I regret it. Yes and no. I regret that it had to happen. I regret trusting someone who didn't deserve it. But I don't regret telling the truth, not one bit. Here's what I've learned. Silence protects liars. Staying quiet only helps them keep control. I was done letting others rewrite my life. The fallout was messy. Emma lost friends, Margaret apologized publicly, and Tom and Emma split 3 months later. I won't lie, that felt good. But more than revenge, telling the truth set me free. Free from secrets. Free from carrying everyone else's comfort. Dr. Moore says I'm doing better than most. I'm not sure I'd say better, but I'm stronger, tougher, more careful. I double-check everything, trust slowly, keep proof. Some call it paranoia. I call it experience. But I'm also softer, more open to good people, more hopeful that something real can exist. David and Kate say I'm ready to date. They've tried setting me up. I haven't said yes yet. Last week I met someone by accident, Sophie, an art conservator. Paint on her hands, curls, glasses, quiet charm. We talked 20 minutes and swapped numbers. For the first time in 2 years, I felt a spark again. Not ready yet, but someday. That feels like healing. If you've read this far, here's my takeaway. Trust your gut when something feels off. Love needs more than love. It needs respect and honesty. Be open with money. Don't let silence hide the truth. Keep proof, because without it, truth is just another story. Other people's lies don't define your worth. Healing takes time. You can't fix a relationship alone. Sometimes the best thing you can do is tell the truth and walk away. You're allowed to start over and build something new. I still think of Emma sometimes, wonder if she realizes what she broke. But that's not my burden now. I'm living my life, building something new. Maybe I'll text Sophie tomorrow. Maybe not. The point is, I can choose, and that freedom is worth everything I lost. I disappeared, rebuilt, and survived. If you're where I was, listen, you're not crazy. Your instincts are right. You're allowed to save yourself, even if you have to start from nothing.